This is the weekly sales meeting for November 23rd, 2025. My name is Chris Fleming. You can reach me at chris@cdmediaconsulting.com or go to our website at cdmediaconsulting.com. Today's topic is the danger of seeking approval from others. Seeking approval from others can quietly undermine confidence. It can distort your decision-making, and because of this, it will stall your growth. While it is human nature to want to be liked, this desire becomes dangerous when it turns into a need for validation. Sellers who crave approval often prioritize being accepted over being effective. They hesitate to ask tough questions. They discount their value. They avoid conflict even when conflict is necessary to move a deal forward. Instead of acting with purpose, they react to the moods and preferences of others. Over time, this erodes not only their performance, but also their professional identity. The late Steve Jobs said, "Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice." In the world of outside sales, that noise can be deafening. A prospect's silence might feel like rejection. A manager's critique might feel like disapproval. Instead of focusing on delivering value, approval seekers will focus on how to avoid discomfort. They chase praise instead of results. They seek reassurance instead of truth. But selling is not a popularity contest. It's a profession built on clarity, conviction, and courage. Approval seeking is not only an emotional habit, it is a mental trap. It shifts the focus from the message to the messenger. It becomes less about the customer's problem. The focus shifts to the seller's feelings, and that shift is costly. According to research by the Harvard Business Review, professionals who seek approval are more likely to avoid risk. These sellers tend to delay hard decisions, all because of a struggle with self-doubt. That is despite all the evidence and even hard data backing up their position. This hesitation creates a ripple effect. Conversations stay surface level, proposals stay generic, and deals stall because no one wants to rock the boat. But progress requires movement. Movement often requires friction. The danger of seeking approval also shows up in pricing. When we feel the need to be liked rather than respected, we will fold under pressure. We offer discounts when none are necessary. We backpedal when a buyer pushes back. Why? Because standing firm feels like rejection. But it's not. It is leadership. Jocko Willink, a former Navy SEAL and author of Extreme Ownership, teaches that discipline equals freedom. It is the discipline to stand by your value. It is the discipline to speak with clarity. It is the discipline to let the buyer choose freely. This is what separates sales professionals from the people pleasers. Approval seekers don't create freedom, they create a false sense of comfort. And false comfort is deadly in the competitive marketplace. This approval addiction also creates problems inside your sales organization. Sellers who crave validation often tell managers what they want to hear instead of what's really happening. Forecasts become fiction, pipelines get padded, and when deals fall through, everyone is surprised. That is, except for the buyer. The truth was always there. But the need to be seen as doing well silenced it. That is why strong sales cultures reward truth over appearance. We teach that being wrong is fine. Being vague is not. In fact, the fastest way to grow is to get honest feedback, not flattery. Psychologist Dr. Harriet Breaker wrote, "The disease to please is a form of addiction. Like any addiction, it has negative consequences. One of those consequences is wasted time." Approval-seeking sellers spend hours chasing buyers who were never serious. They were only being polite. These sellers confuse interest with intent. We mistake friendliness for fit, and by the time the seller realizes the truth, the quarter or the year is gone. Contrast that with the seller who says, "This may not be a fit, and that is okay." That seller qualifies faster. That seller wins faster. That seller learns faster. Because they're not trying to earn approval, they're trying to solve a problem. The need for approval also changes how salespeople handle rejection. For the approval seeker, every no feels personal. Every closed door feels like a judgment. And over time, this emotional weight builds up. Burnout sets in. Confidence fades. We become hesitant, second-guessing everything that is said. But top performers view rejection differently. We understand the word no is part of the job. We don't fear it, we filter it. We use it as a data point. It is not a reflection of our own self-worth. It is a blip on the radar. What is the difference? One group is tied to outcomes, the other is anchored in the purpose. There is also a critical power shift that happens when you stop seeking approval. You stop needing permission to lead. Too many salespeople wait for the buyer to open the door to value, but value must be led. It must be introduced, explained, and reinforced with clarity. If the seller is waiting to be liked before they speak up, we will never lead the conversation. And if you don't lead the conversation, someone else will. It is usually the buyer who may not even understand their own needs yet. Sales is about guiding people to better decisions. Approval seeking is about waiting for people to accept you. One drives progress, the other delays it. Author Brené Brown reminds us you can choose courage or you can choose comfort, but you cannot choose both. Approval seeking is the pursuit of comfort. Courage, on the other hand, looks like telling a buyer they may be focusing on the wrong problem. It looks like suggesting a higher price because it delivers more value. It looks like walking away from a deal that isn't mutually beneficial. These actions might risk disapproval, but they build trust. The reality is your buyer doesn't want a yes woman or a yes man. They want a business partner. They want an advisor who brings clarity, not flattery. The approval trap also affects how we use our time. Approval-seeking sellers are often reactive. They will say yes to every request. They take every meeting. They respond instantly to every message. Almost every interaction is a crisis of their own making. But real productivity requires boundaries. Time must be managed with intention, not insecurity. Saying no is not rude. It is responsible. It tells the world, I know what matters and I'm focused on it. And focus is a force multiplier in sales. Data from Salesforce shows that top sellers spend 65% of their time on high-value activities. These include prospecting, fierce qualifying, and activities that advance the sale. Approval seekers often spend that time trying to stay visible or look busy, but visibility without value is noise, and your buyer can tell the difference. They don't want noise, they want insight, they want confidence. They want sellers who lead with certainty, not insecurity. If you don't think the buyer notices what type of person you are, think again. This is especially true in complex sales where multiple decision makers are involved. If we try to please everyone, we will end up pleasing no one. Every message gets watered down. Every conversation feels generic. But decision makers don't invest in vague ideas. They invest in clear outcomes. Sellers who know their worth, who speak with authority, and who don't flinch when challenged. These are the sellers who win the room, not because they were the nicest, but because they were the most useful. The approval mindset will lead to missed innovation. Sellers who are afraid to push boundaries never ask what if. They don't test new strategies. They don't question old ones. They follow the script, hoping it will keep them safe. But safe is not scalable. Safe doesn't create breakthroughs. It doesn't identify hidden needs or spot emerging opportunities. Innovation requires risk, and risk requires the confidence to be misunderstood for a while. We must be comfortable with this. As Seth Godin says, if you're not being misunderstood, you're probably not doing anything important. Even team dynamics are affected. Approval seekers tend to avoid difficult conversations. They don't give feedback. They don't challenge underperformance. And over time, this creates a culture of mediocrity. Everyone is trying to be liked, not better, but excellence requires a degree of friction. As we establish, that means movement is taking place. We must have the ability to speak hard truths with respect. It requires accountability, not blame, not bullying, but real adult accountability. That doesn't happen when everyone is chasing approval. It happens when people care more about results than recognition. There is also a leadership gap created by approval seeking. Managers who need to be liked avoid making unpopular decisions. They delay change. They lower the collective standard to appease the mediocre. The leader confuses being liked with being respected, but respect is earned through consistent actions. It is earned by speaking with clarity. It is earned by having the courage to communicate even the unpopular ideas. A leader's job is not to win a popularity contest. It is to make progress possible. That means setting direction, making calls, and standing by them, even when and especially when these decisions are hard. Leaders who model this behavior teach their teams to do the same. They create cultures of execution, not excuses. The same applies to peer dynamics. The sales profession is often competitive, but it doesn't have to be cutthroat. Approval seekers, however, may struggle with peer envy. They view others' success as a threat to their own identity. Instead of learning from top performers, they feel threatened by them. This creates division, gossip, and silent resentment. But healthy teams celebrate wins, and it doesn't matter who earns them. They share what works. They lift each other up. That only happens when people are secure enough to not need constant validation. Approval seeking is about fear. It is often a fear of rejection. It is certainly fear of judgment, and it manifests itself as a fear of being seen as not enough. But fear and sales do not mix. Sales is about the transfer of confidence and emotion, and if a seller doesn't believe in themselves, the buyer won't either. Confidence is not arrogance, it's a quiet clarity. It is knowing that what you bring to the table is valuable, and because of that knowledge, you are willing and able to walk away when the value is not appreciated. That is not ego, that is pure professionalism. The data backs this up. According to a study by Gong.io, the best salespeople are not the ones who talk the most, smile the most, or agree the most. We are the ones who ask better questions, challenge assumptions, and control the flow of the conversation. That requires confidence. That requires purpose, and neither can exist when the primary goal is to be liked. There's also a hidden cost to approval seeking, and that cost is regret. Sellers who look back often realize they didn't say what needed to be said. They avoided the tough conversation. They let discounts happen. They let silence win. And over time, those moments add up, not just in lost revenue, but in lost confidence. But the seller who looks back with pride is the one who showed up fully. We are willing to take the risk of being unpopular. We are willing to speak with integrity. We know not every deal is going to close, but every deal that does will be honest and clean. To break the approval habit, start by redefining success. It is not about applause, it is about alignment. Did you serve the buyer well? Did you challenge them to think? Did you help them make a better decision, even if that decision was not your proposed solution? That is success, and that is how trust is built. It is not built through charm, it is built through clarity. In the end, approval seeking is a form of self-sabotage. It feels like protection, but it's really avoidance. It keeps sellers small. It keeps organizations safe but stagnant. The way out is not to try harder to be liked. It is to shift focus entirely. Shift from wanting to be liked to striving to be useful. Shift from seeking praise to being prepared. Go from popular to being purposeful. Ralph Waldo Emerson said to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. In outside sales, that is not just philosophy, it is survival. The sellers who rise above are the ones who know who they are, what they offer, and why it matters. They don't wait for approval, they bring value, and they do it every single day. That, more than anything else, is what earns lasting respect. It is how reputations are born and legacies are built, because this method delivers consistent results. My new book, Double Your Revenue, is now available on Amazon.com. If you like what you have heard here today, please consider ordering a copy, or two. You can always send one to a friend. Go to cdmediaconsulting.com right now and follow the instructions to order.